Okay, everybody. I'm going to show you my introductory activity for UDL that I use, and this will be the same attachment that I send you, the attachment that I'm looking at right now. So for this activity, I have typically done this, well, actually I've done it with lots of sizes of groups. I've done it with 2 people and I've done it with 80 people. So it just depends on how many copies of the cards you want to make. But anyway, the first thing I do is I make copies of these cards. And these are, I just usually print it on cardstock or whatever in color if you can. Just these ones with all the fruits and vegetables. And so then let me open up the actual presentation so we can see that. Let's see, let me get this up. Sorry, I'm in a Starbucks and it's like super loud in here, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this is, I will have sent you this link as well. But this is, yes, this one. This is what I would usually use as in the actual presentation part. Okay, so we're going to do an introductory activity. So I just explained that we're going to do an activity that's going to show them a little bit about the difference between a UDL lesson and a non-UDL lesson. And I tell them that I'm going to read out loud a list of 15 fruits and vegetables, and that their job is to listen to the list and remember as many as they can. And then when I'm finished with the list, they're going to write down as many of the fruits and vegetables as they can remember from the ones I listed. Okay, I don't really give them a whole lot of other information than that. I really just start in pretty quickly because I want them to sort of feel taken by surprise a little bit. So I read out the list that we have. I think it's in this one now. So then I read out this list number 1. Okay, and I try to do it like in the most monotone Ferris Bueller teacher voice I can. So I'm usually like this: blueberries, lettuce, kiwi fruit, rhubarb, Brussels sprouts, mushroom, peach, carrots, snow peas, spinach, radish, banana, grapefruit, celery, asparagus, go. And then they will try to remember as many of those as they can, and they write them down on their little sheet. This is what their sheet looks like. And this, I put 2 of them on here because I usually copy this back to back and then just cut it down the middle, like straight down the middle like that. So they have 1 to 15 on one side, and then they flip it over, and they have that on the second side as well. So anyway, I usually give them about 2 minutes to try to remember as many of the list as they can, and they'll write them down here. Okay, oh yeah. So then after that 2 minutes is up, pardon me, then I put this screen up right here. And so we talk about, this is, you were only getting the information from me in one way, right? So I was just standing and talking, and your job was to listen and to process what I was saying. And so we talk about what type of students this doesn't work for. Like, what kind of students would this particular activity not be helpful for? And so these are actually, I have these animated so they pop out later. The first thing they see really is just only the question. And so we talk about that, and they usually come up with a list similar to this of students who that wouldn't work for. And we talk about, that's a lot. Like, if you really think about having that many students in your classroom that these things apply to, that's a lot of students. So then after we talked about that, then I give them the answers to I go back and tell them like the list again, right? So I just read it out loud and see how many they got right. So then I have them like raise their hands. So if you got 8 or less correct, raise your hand, and there's usually some. And then I'll go up from there. If you got 10 or less correct, 11 or less correct, it's very rare that someone gets all 15 on the first try. I've had people get 12 or so usually, but I don't even think I've ever had anyone get 15 right. Okay, so that's the first part. So then I say, okay, now we're going to try this a little bit differently, and I want to see, how it feels to do this a different way. So here we have part 2. So this is what the cards look like whenever you print them and cut them all up. So for the second part, we're going to do the same idea, but we're going to use a different list of fruits and vegetables. And I tell them they can just forget the first part. The ones that we did before, you don't need those anymore. You can just dump those. So you don't need that information in your mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just a quick card sorting activity. So I usually have these already in little packs with rubber bands around them, or sometimes I'll put paper clips around them, and I just pass those out. So I'll go through this and read the cards, and I read the list one by one. And as I do that, I have them point to the cards. Okay, so we go through the list, and I have these all pop up animated one at a time. So I'll read the thing, I'll say okra, and then they will have their cards all spread out in front of them and they point to okra. Okay, and so we do that to go through all of them. Then the next thing we do is we actually do the card sorting activity. So I have them sort them first into two categories, fruits and vegetables. Again, this is animated, so they only see that first part first. So they separate their fruits and vegetables out. And then I have them put them all back together, and then they sort them again by color. And then the last time I have them sort them in a way that if they were going to memorize this for a test, how would they do that? So, maybe you want to organize them in alphabetical order and memorize that, or maybe you want to put them by color, but remember that you have 4 red, 6 orange, whatever. So they find a way to do that, and I give them 2 minutes to work with the cards and try to memorize them. And after that's over, we go back and check and see how many we got right. Several people usually will get 15 right. Most people get at least 10 or 12 right, but almost everyone gets a higher score on the second one, right? And so then we talk about, so in this activity, the way that we did it this way with the cards, what students would now be able to participate if they did it this way as opposed to the beginning, right? So like students who are hard of hearing or deaf would not have been able to participate at all in the first activity, whereas now they would have more of an option, right? So that's what we do next. We talk about that. And then this one kind of always gets them when I ask, well, what if I had only given the card sorting option to the ones who needed the extra help, right? So like the ones who got 8 or less, then would the rest of your scores improve? And usually they're like, oh my God, who knew? So that's that. And then I added this on because I think this is helpful for them to just sort of reflect for a minute. And you could do like a think, pair, share or something or whatever. But thinking about in doing those 2 activities, they kind of need to gauge where they were on those, right? So what were their emotions for the first one versus the second one? Where was your anxiety level? What about the level of accessibility? And most importantly is self-efficacy. How did you feel about yourself as a learner after the first one? And how did you feel about yourself as a learner after the second one? And then I guess you could go on to maybe look at something else like this too. But this activity I've done this like a billion trillion times, and it always seems to have an impact on people because it's like they don't think that UDL applies to them because they're not special ed, whatever, it's, how that is. So they think that it doesn't apply to them, but whenever you show them, yeah, like even if you're putting this in place because you have kids in your class that are, that have special needs or learning requirements or whatever, then if you're putting things in place for those students, but you also are offering those options to all the students, look what it could do. Like, what can you imagine what this could really do in a classroom? So I think this is a good activity for that. I hope that this helps you. You feel free to use it if you would like. You don't have to. And I hope that you find something that really shows people how powerful UDL is. Thanks.